In the cosmic hierarchy of angels, there exists one figure so powerful, so absolute, that even the mightiest archangels fall silent in his presence. Michael, the warrior of God, Lucifer, the morning star, both have trembled before him. But here's what makes this being truly terrifying. He doesn't wage wars. He doesn't deliver messages. He doesn't perform miracles. He does something far more absolute. He ends stories. Every story, without exception. His arrival means only one thing: your chapter in existence has reached its final page. They call him by many names across cultures and centuries, but the most ancient and feared island, Azrael, the angel of death. But what if everything you think you know about death is wrong? What if the most feared figure in cosmic history is actually the most compassionate guide humanity has ever been given? Today, we're going to uncover the truth behind the most misunderstood figure in religious history, a being whose very existence challenges everything we believe about life, death, and what it means to be human. I'm MC Gabriel, where we explore the profound mysteries that have shaped human consciousness since the beginning of time. Subscribe if you're ready to see ancient wisdom through new eyes. But before we explore who Azrael is, we need to ask a more fundamental question. Why does death need a guide at all? In a universe of infinite power and wisdom, why isn't death simply automatic? To understand this, we need to go back to the beginning. According to ancient traditions, there was once a reality where death didn't exist. A perfect world where everything was eternal, harmonious, and complete. But perfection, it turns out, had an unexpected vulnerability. One choice, one moment of defiance, one decision to seek knowledge beyond wisdom's boundaries, and suddenly, perfection developed its first crack. Death wasn't created as punishment, it emerged as consequence. Now the universe faced an unprecedented challenge. How do you manage an ending when nothing was designed to end? How do you guide a transition when no one has ever transitioned before? This wasn't just a logistical problem, it was a cosmic crisis. Death couldn't just be an event, it had to be an experience. And experiences require guides, someone who could bridge the gap between what was known and what was unknowable. Someone who could make the impossible transition possible. So, the universe needed to fill the most difficult position ever created. Think of it as the ultimate job posting, seeking candidate for unprecedented role. Must be willing to do what no one else can do. Experience with impossible tasks preferred, emotional detachment required, apply directly to divine HR. First candidate, Michael, the warrior archangel. His resume was impeccable, battles won, demons defeated, divine justice delivered. But when asked to collect the dust from earth for humanity's creation, something unexpected happened. The earth itself cried out in anguish, and Michael hesitated. Michael returned empty-handed. The great warrior, who had faced down Lucifer himself, couldn't bring himself to cause suffering to complete the mission. It wasn't weakness, it was the wrong type of strength for this particular job. Next up, Gabriel, the messenger of God. If Michael was the muscle, Gabriel was the voice, eloquent, wise, with perfect communication skills. Surely the angel who delivered the most important messages in history could handle this delicate task. But Gabriel faced the same challenge. When Earth begged for mercy, Gabriel's perfect empathy became a perfect obstacle. The messenger who could deliver any news couldn't deliver this particular sorrow. Compassion, it turned out, disqualified the most qualified candidates. Finally, they called in Azrael. Not the obvious choice, not the famous warrior or the eloquent messenger, just the quiet one. The angel whose resume was unremarkable except for one quality. absolute reliability in impossible situations. When Azrael approached Earth, something different happened. He acknowledged the pain, understood the cost, but didn't let emotion override duty. "I know this hurts," he said quietly, "but sometimes love means doing what others cannot." And for the first time, Earth gave willingly. And that's how Azrael got the job, not through strength or eloquence, but through the rarest quality of all, the ability to carry out love through difficult action. From that moment, he became Malak al-Mawt, the angel of death. So now that Azrael has the position, let's break down his actual job description. Because trust me, this is more complex than any Fortune 500 CEO role you've ever seen. Imagine the most comprehensive employee handbook in existence. Now multiply that by infinity. Primary function, soul extraction specialist. But this isn't some grim harvesting operation. Think of Azrael as the universe's most skilled surgeon, performing the most delicate operation possible, separating the eternal from the temporary at the exact moment of natural transition. Zero mistakes allowed. Unlike earthly professions where errors can be corrected, death work has no margin for error. Every soul, every moment, must be handled with absolute precision. One wrong timing, and the cosmic order itself could be disrupted. Now let's talk scale. Currently, 8 billion people on Earth. Every day, approximately 150,000 people pass away. That means Azrael oversees 6,250 cases per hour, 104 per minute, or 1.7 every single second. And that's just humans. Add every living creature, and we're talking millions of transitions daily. Secondary function, psychopomp, or as we'd call it today, cosmic travel guide. Azrael doesn't just collect souls, he escorts them through the most important journey they'll ever take. And like the best travel guides, he customizes every experience. A child's journey looks different from a warrior's. A saint's passage differs from a scholar's. Each soul receives exactly what they need. Tens. Some get gentle comfort, others get heroic send-offs. Scholars get cosmic libraries, artists get infinite creativity realms. Obviously, even Azrael can't handle this alone. He's built the most sophisticated management structure in existence. Regional managers for different continents, specialized teams for disasters and wars, quality control angels, ensuring proper guidance. And yes, there's paperwork. Azrael maintains the ultimate database, a divine scroll containing every living soul's name. When someone's born, they're added. When they die, they're processed out. It's the most accurate census system ever created. Now I know what you're thinking after all this corporate metaphor talk. What does Azrael actually look like? And here's where things get interesting. Because describing Azrael's true form is like trying to explain a four-dimensional object to someone living in 2D. Our minds literally cannot process what ancient scholars claim to witness. According to ancient texts, Azrael doesn't exist in just 3 dimensions like we do. He's a multi-dimensional being. What we perceive of him is like looking at the shadow of a massive sculpture, just a tiny fraction of his actual existence spanning multiple realities simultaneously. Let's start with what ancient Islamic scholars described. Azrael has 4 faces, each looking in a cardinal direction: north, south, east, and west. This isn't symbolic. This is cosmic surveillance. He's simultaneously aware of everything happening in every part of our world, all the time. Then there are his wings. Not 2 like traditional angel depictions, not even 6 like the seraphim. Ancient texts describe Azrael as having 4,000 wings. Each wing serves a specific function, some for mercy, some for justice, some spanning across different realms of existence. Here's what's remarkable. These wings aren't just decorative. Some are described as soft and gentle, made for comforting, peaceful souls. Others are sharp and powerful, designed for those who lived without mercy. Every wing has its purpose in cosmic justice. But perhaps the most extraordinary detail, Azrael's entire body is covered with eyes and tongues. Each eye corresponds to a living soul on earth. Each tongue represents a voice or presence. When someone is born, a new eye appears. When someone dies, one disappears. His very form is a living census of human existence. To understand his true scale, consider this. Ancient texts tell us that the entire earth appears to Azrael as no larger than a grain of sand in his palm. All of human civilization, our entire history, everything we know, fits in his hand like a tiny sphere. Some Islamic scholars claim Azrael is even larger than the bearers of God's throne, angels so massive their size is described in cosmic terms. If that's true, we're talking about a being whose scale defies every concept of size we possess. Here's what's beautiful about these impossible descriptions. They're not trying to terrify us. They're trying to expand our understanding of what existence itself might contain. Azrael's form challenges us to imagine realities beyond our current comprehension. Now here's where Azrael's story becomes truly fascinating, and where ancient wisdom reveals something profound about human psychology. After hearing about his impossible form, you'd expect encountering him to be terrifying. But here's the paradox. Azrael doesn't appear the same to everyone. His form adapts based on who's seeing him. Think of Azrael as a cosmic mirror. He doesn't judge, he reflects. What you see when you encounter him is essentially what your soul has become during your lifetime. It's the most honest assessment you'll ever receive, delivered by the most qualified assessor in existence. For those who lived with kindness, compassion, and integrity, Azrael appears as a figure of incredible beauty and peace. Ancient accounts describe him as radiant, gentle, arriving not as an ending but as a long-awaited friend coming to escort them home. These encounters are described as conversations between old friends. There's time for understanding, for saying goodbye, for preparing the soul. Azrael gives them the dignity of choice, the comfort of explanation, and the peace of knowing they're not alone in this transition. But for those who lived with cruelty, who chose selfishness over compassion, who caused suffering without remorse, Azrael's appearance reflects their choices, not as punishment, but as truth. The soul sees exactly what it has created within itself. These encounters aren't about revenge or punishment, they're about truth. The soul finally sees itself clearly, without self-deception, without excuses. Some find this terrifying because they've spent lifetimes avoiding this honesty. But even here, Azrael's purpose is guidance, not condemnation. Here's why this adaptive nature provides comfort. It means death isn't random or arbitrary. There's someone there who truly sees you, understands your journey, and responds appropriately. Whether gentle or firm, Azrael's presence means you're not facing the unknown alone. This reveals something beautiful about the nature of cosmic justice. It's not about punishment, but about perfect understanding. Azrael becomes exactly what each soul needs to face their transition with appropriate preparation. Fear for those who need awakening, peace for those who've earned rest. Perfect cosmic customer service, if you will. Now let's address the question that started this entire journey. Why do even the mightiest angels fear Azrael? The answer isn't what you might expect. It's not because he's cruel or malicious. It's because when Azrael appears, every other cosmic operation stops. Everything. The entire universe holds its breath. Michael, the warrior who defeated Lucifer himself, the general of heaven's armies, the angel who has never backed down from any cosmic conflict. When Azrael passes, Michael steps aside. Not in fear, but in recognition of absolute authority that transcends military power. Even more telling, Lucifer, the being who rebelled against God himself, who said, "I will not serve," even he acknowledges Azrael's authority. Because Azrael represents something beyond rebellion, beyond pride, beyond choice itself. He represents inevitability. Here's what makes Azrael's authority unique. It doesn't come from rank or power or divine favor. It comes from function. He represents the one thing that applies to everyone, everywhere, always. Death is the universal constant, and Azrael is its embodiment. While other angels serve in specific roles, Michael protects, Gabriel delivers messages, Raphael heals. Azrael's jurisdiction is absolute, every living being, in every realm, across all time. His authority has no exceptions, no exemptions, no appeals process. Think about what this means. Emperors and peasants, saints and sinners, the wise and the foolish, the young and the old, everyone eventually comes under Azrael's care. No amount of power, wealth, or righteousness can grant exemption from his ultimate authority. In every cosmic conversation, in every divine debate, in every question about existence itself, Azrael has the final word. Not because he's the loudest or the strongest, but because he represents the final chapter that every story must reach. So when we ask why the greatest angels respect Azrael, the answer becomes clear. They respect him because existence itself requires him. He's not feared for his power, he's revered for his necessity. In a cosmos where everything serves a purpose, Azrael serves the most essential purpose of all. So far, we've explored Azrael from a cosmic perspective, but what about actual human encounters? Throughout history, there have been documented meetings between Azrael and mortals. These accounts, found across different cultures and centuries, reveal something remarkable: consistency in how he approaches different types of souls. According to Islamic tradition, Prophet Muhammad encountered Azrael with mutual respect and understanding. There was no terror, no pleading for more time. Instead, there was a conversation between two beings who understood their roles in the cosmic order. Azrael asked permission before proceeding, Azrael showing dignity even in death's inevitability. The Sufi poet Rumi described Azrael not as a stranger, but as an old friend coming to take me home. In his mystical writings, death becomes a reunion rather than a separation. Azrael appears as the guide who helps the soul remember its true nature and origin. Even Moses, who spoke directly with God, initially resisted Azrael's approach. But according to tradition, this wasn't defiance, it was clarification. Moses needed to understand his mission was complete before he could accept the transition. Azrael waited patiently for this understanding to dawn. Medieval Islamic scholars recorded encounters where learned individuals met Azrael with prepared hearts. These weren't sudden deaths, but gradual approaches, allowing time for final prayers, last words to loved ones, and spiritual preparation. The scholars' peaceful acceptance became legendary examples of dignified transition. Warriors across cultures report similar experiences, Azrael appearing not as defeat, but as recognition of honor earned through service. The angel acknowledges their courage, their sacrifices, their dedication to protecting others. Death becomes not the end of service, but its transformation into eternal honor. Remarkably, modern near-death experiences often echo these ancient accounts. People describe encountering a figure of profound peace and understanding, someone who explains rather than commands, who comforts rather than frightens. The consistency across cultures and centuries suggests something beyond cultural projection. What emerges from all these accounts is a clear pattern. Azrael's approach is always appropriate to the individual. Respect for the righteous, patience for the confused, honor for the courageous, understanding for the scholarly. The angel of death reveals himself as the angel of appropriate transition. Now let's examine this from a modern psychological perspective. Why do humans across cultures create figures like Azrael? Neuroscience research shows that our brains are wired to seek agency and pattern, especially when facing the unknown. Death guides aren't just cultural artifacts, they fulfill a fundamental psychological need for understanding and control. Terror management theory suggests that much of human culture exists to help us cope with the anxiety of knowing we will die. Death guides like Azrael serve as anxiety buffers. They transform an incomprehensible void into a guided transition. This isn't weakness, it's sophisticated psychological adaptation. What's remarkable is the consistency across isolated cultures. Egyptian Anubis, Greek Thanatos, Hindu Yama, Aztec Mictlantecutli, completely separate civilizations, developed similar death guide concepts. This suggests something deeper than cultural transmission. It points to universal psychological architecture. Modern grief counselors and thanatologists actually use concepts remarkably similar to Azrael's approach. They create death doulas, trained guides who help people navigate end-of-life transitions with dignity and understanding. Ancient wisdom has become contemporary therapeutic practice. Ironically, our digital age has increased death anxiety rather than reduced it. Constant information exposure amplifies existential fears. Social media creates comparison cultures that make mortality more threatening. We need death guides now more than ever, but we've largely abandoned the psychological frameworks that provided them. Yet Azrael's influence persists in unexpected places. From Terry Pratchett's death character to Marvel's gentle psychopomps, popular culture keeps reimagining death guides. Even in secular contexts, we instinctively gravitate toward the idea of compassionate transition assistance. The psychological mechanism is elegant. Instead of facing an unknown void, we face a knowledgeable guide. Instead of meaningless termination, we experience purposeful transition. Instead of abandonment, we receive companionship. Azrael represents the ultimate therapeutic intervention for humanity's deepest fear. Understanding Azrael through modern psychology doesn't diminish his significance, it enhances it. Whether viewed as religious truth or psychological archetype, he addresses fundamental human needs that remain constant across millennia. In a world increasingly disconnected from traditional wisdom, perhaps it's time to reconsider what ancient cultures understood about facing mortality with grace. We've explored Azrael from cosmic, historical, and psychological perspectives. But this raises a deeper question. What does the existence of such a figure tell us about the nature of reality itself? Whether you view him as literal divine being or psychological archetype, Azrael points to something profound about existence. If Azrael represents anything universal, it's this: death isn't termination, it's completion. Every story needs an ending to give it meaning. Every symphony requires a final note to create beauty. Azrael suggests that endings aren't failures of life, but fulfillments of purpose. Perhaps Azrael's greatest teaching is about consciousness itself. Humans are unique in knowing we will die. This isn't a curse, it's a gift. Death awareness creates urgency for meaning, depth in relationships, appreciation for beauty. Without mortality, would we truly value anything? Azrael doesn't just end, he transforms. The ancient accounts consistently describe him as a bridge between states of being. This suggests something remarkable. Consciousness might not be destroyed by death, but transformed by it. What appears to be ending might actually be beginning. Whether rich or poor, famous or forgotten, saint or sinner, everyone receives Azrael's personal attention. This speaks to something beautiful about human dignity. Every life matters enough to warrant individual care in its final transition. No one dies alone, unnoticed, or unimportant. Understanding Azrael changes how we live, knowing that death is guided rather than random, meaningful rather than meaningless, transforms daily existence. We can live with less fear and more purpose, knowing our stories will have appropriate endings. Perhaps that's Azrael's greatest gift, the invitation to wonder, to consider that reality might be far more mysterious, compassionate, and meaningful than we typically imagine. Whether you encounter him as religious truth or profound metaphor, he challenges us to expand our understanding of what existence might contain. What do you think? Has this exploration changed how you view death, meaning, or the nature of existence itself? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if this journey into ancient wisdom has sparked your curiosity, subscribe for more deep dives into the profound questions that have shaped human understanding for millennia.